The night began quietly, almost deceptively so. Rain tapped softly against the glass walls of the private Malibu retreat, the ocean beyond shrouded in mist. Inside, candlelight flickered across polished wood floors, casting long, trembling shadows. Rihanna stood near the window, arms folded around herself, breathing in the hush. She hadn't expected anything tonight. No cameras, no entourage, no red carpets, just a rare pocket of stillness. ASAP Rocky watched her from across the room, heart pounding in his chest. He had rehearsed this moment 100 times in his head. Every word, every pause, every breath. Still, none of it felt enough for what he was about to do. He cleared his throat. She turned, brows knitting slightly. Yeah, there was something in his voice, soft, heavy, that made her chest tighten. He crossed the room slowly, as if afraid that one wrong step would shatter the fragile calm between them. I know we don't usually do things like this, he began, eyes glistening. And I know you hate surprises. She gave a small smile. Depends who they're from. That smile was all it took. Rocky reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a slim leather-bound notebook worn at the edges, pages bent and loved. Rihanna's smile faded into confusion. What's that? She asked. It's everything I never knew how to say out loud. He opened it, hands trembling, and began to read. Page after page spilled memories. The first night they stayed up talking until sunrise. The fights that nearly broke them. The silence that scared him more than any argument ever could. He spoke of fear. Fear of failing her, of losing himself, of not being worthy of the love she offered so freely. His voice cracked as he read the part about watching her become a mother, about the way her strength humbled him, about the nights. He lay awake just listening to her breathe, terrified that one day he'd wake up and she'd be gone. Rihanna's eyes filled instantly. Tears slid down her cheeks, unrestrained, soaking into the collar of her sweater. Rocky, she whispered, already breaking. He reached the final page and looked up at her. The room was supposed unable to continue reading. No I've cameras, spent my whole life running, he said. No red carpet, from expectations, no flashing lights, from pain, just a soft glow from the city outside the windows. I don't want to run the familiar anymore. Comfort then came the real surprise. Rihanna had told herself it was going to be a calm evening, not performatively. One of those rare pauses in a life that never truly slowed down. Rihanna nothing about that night turned out to be her mouth as a sob tore out of her chest. From the moment ASAP Rocky asked her to sit down years of emotion, she hadn't realized something in his voice made her chest tighten. She shook her head. It wasn't nervousness exactly. Tears streaming freely. It was deeper. I'm not asking because the world kind of tone that carries weight, voice breaking, and emotion because I choose you. Every version of you, every season, why you sound like that? She teased. He opened raising the box. An eyebrow. The ring inside wasn't blinding with excess. Rocky was elegant, smile back, intentional, instead personal. He walked to inside the room, engraved in tiny letters she hadn't noticed the words before, home is you, and took Rihanna collapsed to the floor. One hand trembled, just crying openly now. Not enough for most people to catch, that came from but Rihanna far beyond joy. This always just happened, and in that instant, it was released. Something inside her. It was the sound of years of guarding her heart finally giving way. He didn't rush. He did all this for me. He didn't dramatize it. For us, he didn't try to be clever. She cupped his face. Rocky simply tears dripping onto his really cheeks as her forehead pressed against his. The way a man looks when he knows his life has already been changed forever. The room now felt suspended in time. Before you open this, he said quietly, I need you to listen to me. Finally, Rihanna's smile faded. She finally her eyes softened. Yes, her heart started racing. Yes, I've lived a lot of lives. Exhaled like he'd been holding his breath his entire life. I've been reckless. He slid the ring onto her finger. I didn't even understand. Eyes wet, but loving they stayed there on the floor, slowed me down, holding that each other, grounded me, crying together. She swallowed hard. No filters. I've never known a piece like this. No audience. He said, just truth. And I've never known feel like the rain intensified. That was when her hands began to shake as if the world itself was reacting. Later that night, wrapped dramatically, Rihanna rested her head on his chest. Like this was the only place he was meant to be. I cried because I didn't see it coming. Wasn't just jewelry, but I cried harder because I finally felt inside safe. The band were words only they understood. That's all I ever wanted. To late night and conversations, in the quiet aftermath, private tears music, hearts jokes, exposed, and promises whispered when the world felt too loud. It was the promise that neither of them would ever face life alone again. It wasn't about the spectacle. Ryrie cries bitterly after ASAP. Rihanna stared at it in silence for several seconds. The room fell into a hush. Then her face crumbled. Unreal. Ryrie, the kind of silence that presses against your chest. The tears didn't fall gently. Rihanna stood frozen, her breath trembling. Her hands flew to her somewhere between her shoulders shook as years of guarded strength collapsed. ASAP Rocky didn't speak. This wasn't a celebrity crying. He just looked at her. This wasn't Rihanna, eyes glossy, the icon. This was like Robin, he was holding the woman back a lifetime of deeply, lost moments earlier, and
she
built
had been
walls
laughing,
so high she
smiling,
forgot what it felt like to let someone see her this
Then he
vulnerable.
dropped the surprise.
As she tried to speak, but her voice
she didn't
broke.
understand
Rocky
it.
stood up
Her brows
instantly,
knitted together
abandoning
as
the
she
plan.
searched his
Music
face for a
the speech,
punchline, for some
the
sign
moment.
that
This was
wrapping
another
her
playful
in his
moment
arms
as
as
she
she
sobbed
sobbed
uncontrollably
his voice,
into his
low,
chest.
steady,
I didn't know I
shaking
needed
at the
this,
edges.
she cried. Told
I
her
didn't
this
know
was
I could
real.
feel
This
safe
was
like
serious.
this.
Her
This
tears
was something
soaked
he
into
had
his
carried
shirt.
quietly for
His own
far
eyes
too
glistened
long.
as he
Her
held her
smile
tighter,
faded slowly,
resting his chin
painfully,
against her head.
and then
You
she
don't
broke.
have to say
Tears
anything,
welled
he
up
whispered.
instantly.
I just needed you to know how
before she
serious
could
my
stop
love
them.
is.
Her
Her
lips
love
parted,
forged in
but
fire
no
and
sound
healing.
came out.
For a long
Just
time,
a sharp
they
inhale,
stayed like that.
the air itself
No
had
words,
betrayed her.
just
She
breathing,
turned away,
grounding each
pressing
other
a hand
in the
to her
moment.
mouth.
Rihanna
Shoulders
finally
beginning to
pulled.
shake as the
Music,
weight of his
back,
words finally
her lashes
landed.
wet.
People
Her cheeks
watching could
flushed.
tell
Her
immediately
voice
this
barely
wasn't
steady.
ordinary
You
crying.
surprised me,
This
she
was
said
bitter.
through tears.
This was the kind
And
of
I
crying
don't
that
cry
comes
like
when
this.
love collides
Not
with
anymore.
fear.
When
Rocky
joy and
smiled
heartbreak
softly.
arrive in the
That's how
same
I
breath.
knew it mattered.
She tried
She
to
laughed
compose
through the
herself.
sobs,
She
shaking
really
her
did.
head.
You're
Wiped her
dangerous,
cheeks,
she said.
took a step
You know
back,
that.
but
Only
the
for
tears
you
kept coming
replied.
fast.
She looked
Unstoppable.
at the ring again,
Her entire
then at
body
him and
reacting
nodded.
before
The
her
internet
mind could
wouldn't be
catch up.
ready.
Her
But
knees
this
buckled
wasn't for
slightly
them.
and he
No
moved
announcement
toward her
was posted
instinctively,
that night.
arms open,
No captions,
ready to catch
no
her.
trending
But she
hashtags
hesitated,
because some
not
moments
because
are too
she didn't
sacred
love
for the
him,
world,
but because she
but those
felt
close
everything
enough
at
to feel the
once.
shift
The
would
surprise
notice
wasn't
something
small.
afterward.
It wasn't
A glow,
symbolic,
a calm,
it wasn't
a new
something you laugh
certainty
off
in how they
later.
moved together.
It was life-altering,
The way Rihanna
a decision
smiled
that
more
reshaped
softly.
their future.
The way Rocky
A
never let
revelation
her
that
walk
explained
alone.
his recent
That night
silence,
wasn't about a
his
ring.
long stares.
It was about
the way he'd been
recognition,
holding her
about a
hand
woman
tighter than
realizing
usual,
she was
as if
deeply,
preparing her for
completely,
impact.
unexpectedly
I didn't
loved
want you
and
to
a
find
man
out
brave
like
enough
this, he
to show
showed,
it without armor.
his voice
And
cracking.
that's why Rihanna
But I
cried
couldn't
the way
keep
she
she
did
did because
anymore.
she wasn't
That
losing
was when she
control.
lost it.
She was
She
finally
covered her
letting go.
face,
Broken
sobbing
openly
heart
now,
sparkles.
her
When
cries
the
raw
lights
and
dimmed inside
unfiltered.
the private
This
Los
wasn't
Angeles
Angeles
studio.
This
No,
was about love
music,
that runs so
one,
deep it scares
not even
you.
Rihanna
About
herself
realizing how
had
much
any
someone
idea that
means
the
to
night
you
was
only
about
when
to
the
turn
stakes
into
suddenly
one of the
feel
most
terrifyingly
emotionally
high.
overwhelming
Her tears
moments
weren't
of her
just
life.
sadness.
She had
They were
arrived
shock.
thinking it was
They were
just
relief.
another quiet
They were
evening,
fear.
a
They
late
were
night
love.
session,
All
some
tangled
music,
together.
a little
Fans
laughter,
would later
a little
describe the
moment
moment
in a
as
world that
heart-shattering.
rarely allowed
The
her
way
that
she leaned
luxury
against the
anymore.
wall as
She
if the
wore a
world had
simple
tilted.
outfit, the
Her
way her
loosely
voice
styled,
trembled when she
face calm
finally
but
spoke.
tired,
The
whispering
kind
his
of
tone
tired
like
that
it
comes
anchored
from
her back to
carrying years of
reality.
pressure.
You should have
Love,
told me
loss,
sooner, she said through
expectations,
tears. Not
music,
accusing,
and public
not
scrutiny
angry,
all at
just
once.
vulnerable.
But
He
ASAP
nodded,
Rocky had
eyes
something
wet.
else
I
planned.
know.
I was
Something
scared.
no one saw
That
coming.
word scared
The
hit her
setup
harder
no
than
one
anything
noticed.
else.
The
She
studio
turned
felt
toward
different
him,
from the
then
moment
finally
she walked
letting
in.
him pull her
Subtle,
into his arms.
but different.
The moment
The air
his
was
chest
warmer,
met her face,
softer.
she
The
collapsed
lighting wasn't the
completely,
usual harsh
sobbing
glow
into him as he
Rihanna
held
was
her
used to.
tight.
Instead,
One hand
it was
cradling her
dim,
head,
golden,
the other pressed
intimate.
against her back
Candles
like he was
flickered
afraid
along the
she
edges
might
of the room.
disappear.
There
He
were
whispered
flipped irons
apologies.
dancing on
She
platinum
cried
records
harder,
mounted
not
on
because
the
he was
walls.
wrong,
There was
but
no
because she
engineering
understood,
site, because
no
love sometimes
assistance,
hurts
no
most when it
phones
matters
buzzing,
most.
just
Because
silence.
surprises
And
aren't
Rocky
always
standing in the
fireworks
middle
and
of the room
smiles.
unusually
Sometimes
still.
they're tears
Rihanna
and
paused.
trembling hands.
Her instincts
Sometimes
kicked in
they're the
immediately.
realization
Why
that
does
the
it feel
person
like
you
I
love
walked
is
into a
willing to
movie?
risk everything.
She joked
And
lightly,
that terrifies
trying
you
to
more than
brush off
losing
the
them ever
unfamiliar
could.
tension.
When she finally
tightening
pulled
her
back,
chest,
mascara
Rocky
streaked,
smiled,
but
eyes
it
red
wasn't
and
his
swollen.
usual playful
She looked
grin.
at him with a
This
mix
one
of
was
pain
deeper,
and devotion
nervous,
that said everything
emotional,
words couldn't.
and that's when
Promise
she
me,
knew.
she
Something
said
big was
softly.
coming.
Promise me
The
we
first
face
crack
things
in her
together
voice.
next time.
He didn't
He
speak
nodded
right
immediately.
away.
Always.
Instead, he
And in
pressed
that
a
fragile,
button.
music
Music
began to
moment.
play.
It
But
became
not a
clear
beat,
her bitter
not a
tears
song.
weren't the end of
It was a
something.
montage
They
of
were the
sounds.
beginning of a
Her
deeper
laughter,
truth.
her voice
One
humming
forged
unfinished
not in
melodies,
perfect romance,
the heartbeat
but
of
in
their
honesty,
first child
vulnerability,
recorded during an
and
ultrasound,
love,
a
strong
voice
enough
mail
to
she
survive even the hardest surprises. Music, music, foreign four, foreign, foreign, music, it all, my man, music, music, behind, music, it all, why you pray, music, 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 four, foreign, foreign, four, foreign, foreign, four, music, Spider-Man, music.